About the difference between an observational study and an experiment and why there is a difference and why it matters to us. Okay, so I'm going to go over this scenario and we're going to decide kind of what kind of thing this is. Is it an observational study, is it an experiment? Kind of some definition. So the mother smoking during pregnancy and exposure to lead significantly increases her child's risk for developing ADHD, say researchers. In fact, as many as 1/3 of cases of ADHD in children are linked to exposure to tobacco smoke and lead before birth, giving moms yet another reason to quit smoking during pregnancy if they didn't have one already. For the study, researchers from Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center surveyed over 4,700 children between the ages of 4 and 15. Over 4% of the children included had ADHD. The researchers found that those children whose mothers smoked during pregnancy were over twice as likely to develop ADHD than a child whose mother had not smoked. Okay, so it's kind of this setup. Everybody kind of understand where we're at? So, based on this study, based on this information that we have, should we conclude that smoking during pregnancy causes an increase in the likelihood that a child develops ADHD? Explain.
Well,
you said yes first. Sorry.
I said yes because that's just like,
It just feels right?
I mean, that's what people have been told.
Okay.
You know you're not supposed to smoke while you're pregnant. That's just like that.
I do know that. I did not smoke when my wife was pregnant. What else? Yes, no? Sam might not be right.
I mean, I thought, yeah, this says, like, those children whose moms smoke, like, they're over twice as more likely to have it.
The numbers feel right.
2 times. Yeah.
2 times as likely. Anybody on the other side?
I'm just kind of iffy. I'm not saying yes or no, but smoking's like a common thing.
Okay, but the question,
During pregnancy, smoke is a common
does it cause an increase in likelihood?
That would make sense.
Yeah, it does.
So nobody.
It
So,
can also be like, I heard from the book issue, like last year, it can also be circumstantial, like, you just,
okay, let's explore that.
Could be lead.
Smoking or lead. Let's explore what you said. It could be circumstantial. What could be circumstantial? The fact that they get ADHD?
like, just like that the numbers match up with the,
Okay. So what would be the reason that somebody would get ADHD? What are some possible reasons? Genetics is a possible reason. What else? Their surroundings. Okay. The way that they're raised, their surroundings, their upbringing, the household, right? So are there other possible variables in play that could be the cause of ADHD and it not be the smoking?
Yes.
Possibly, right? So we don't know because there are too many other variables that could be causing ADHD to be developed in somebody, right? It could be something else. Maybe those moms that smoke during pregnancy, I don't know, raise their kids differently than moms that do smoke. Maybe that's what's the cause of the ADHD and not just the smoking, okay? So you got to be careful with the word cause. Cause and effect relationship is very tricky, okay? So explain the concept of confounding in the context of this study. So confounding in a broad sense, a confounding variable is any variable that has an effect on the variable that we are looking at that we might not be seeing, right? So in this case, a confounding variable could be the surrounding of the upbringing, right? I have a couple others. They could be home life, amount of books they read, genetics, etc., right? Those are examples of a confounding variable. Okay? Confounding variables have to affect the response variable in the same way that we're seeing. Okay? We have to explain that effect. So, is there any way to prove that smoking causes ADHD?
No. Yes.
There is a way. How can we do that?
You set up a control group where a group doesn't smoke, and then you set one group to smoke.
Okay.
It's kind of unethical, but
So Cooper says we have to set a group over here, a group of
You can't control
moms
every
that are pregnant. Say,
you set it up.
don't smoke.
You can't control every variable.
And then another group that says smoke. Well, we can control as much as we can, right? I understand that we probably can't control genetics. We probably can't control home life to an extent. So there's some things that we can't control, right? But at least we're saying this group doesn't smoke at all. This group smokes, right? So we have some sort of control group there. But yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of hard to control all of the confounding variables in this case. So we control what we can. Okay, try and make those groups as similar as possible. Okay, and that's what I wrote. You guys don't have to write it word for word. But assign a group to smoke a certain amount of cigarettes a day, and then another group to not smoke at all. Then after a specified period of time, check to see how many kids in each group.
Proof is subjective. Whether or not you.
There's probably a threshold of causation where we can say, okay, this is a significant number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Confounding is any variable that affects the response that's different than the variable that we're looking at. So we're looking at smoking causing ADHD. The confounding variable might be something else that also could cause ADHD. So Cooper said it as well. This is really unethical, right? It's probably not something that we should be able to do. Say here, you're pregnant, smoke this many packs of cigarettes today and see if your kid gets ADHD. That's probably unethical. Okay, not going to do that. So, can we make a cause and effect relationship, or can we prove a cause and effect relationship without an experiment? This is what we call an experiment. Yes, but not in this class. Okay, so if you ever look at a pack of cigarettes, there's a warning label on there that says smoking causes lung cancer, right there on the pack. Okay, but do you think the cigarette company or Surgeon General did an experiment where they said, okay, let's see if this actually causes lung cancer. Let's have a group of smokers here and a group of non-smokers and see how lung cancer is affected in these groups? No. There's other ways to see if there's a cause and effect relationship. Okay, but in the scope of this class, in order to do that, we have to have an experiment. Okay, does it make sense? All right, cool. Next. We're not. Or we'll just stay here. Here we go. Whoa.
A little lag.
Settle down. All right. So, what are some differences between an observational study and an experiment? So let's talk about what an observational study is first, and then we'll talk about what an experiment is. An observational study is just us observing individuals and measuring the variables of interest. It doesn't attempt to influence the responses. So this study that we just looked at, that was an observational study. We were observing mothers to see if they smoked or not, and then observing the children to see if they had ADHD or not. We weren't attempting to influence those responses. Okay? An experiment is something where we are attempting to impose some sort of treatment on individuals to measure their responses. Treatment is the key word. We are imposing a treatment on a group of individuals. So in this case, we would be imposing the treatment of smoking, right? You have to smoke so that we can see that's the treatment in this case. We'll talk more about what treatment looks like. Okay. So, two variables that we are going to look at, an explanatory variable and a response variable. Pretty easy definitions. An explanatory explains something about another variable. So, an explanatory variable explains or predicts changes in a response. variable. So what's the explanatory variable in this study that we looked at? The smoking during pregnancy. That's the explanatory variable. What is the response variable? Response variable is the measure. It measures the outcome of the study. Measures the outcome of a study. So the response variable is how many children got ADHD or had ADHD. Okay, that's the response variable. All right. Any questions about definitions? Observational study, experiment, explanatory variable, response. Sorry, that'd be better. Okay, we're good. All right. Let's do it again. Okay, so last thing that we're going to do today is eating dinner with their families improve students' academic performance. According to an ABC News article, teenagers who eat with their families at least 5 times a week are more likely to get better grades in school. This finding was based on a survey conducted by researchers at Columbia University. Actual survey. Okay, so this is not a joke. Teenagers who eat with their families at least 5 times a week are more likely to get better grades in school. Okay, so was this observational study or an experiment?
Observational.
Okay, why?
Because they're observing changing the trees.
I never said this group of students eat with your family 5 nights a week. This group of students eat with your family 3 nights a week. This group of students eat with your family 1 night a week. Right? I didn't impose any treatment to that group of students. We just observed. Right? We just observed the students. Maybe ask 2 questions. What's your GPA? And then how many nights a week do you eat with your family? Okay. So explanatory response variable. What's the explanatory variable?
Eating with the family response.
How many times a week we eat with our family? And what's the response variable? The GPA, whatever your grades are, right? So explanatory variable, number of meals, response, GPA. Okay. So explain clearly why such a study cannot establish a cause and effect relationship.
Because it's probably not due to that actual variable.
Okay, what are some variables that could be confounding?
An intact family.
What's that?
An intact family that eats together every night.
Okay.
They're probably more focused on the kids' academic.
Good. So if I have a family that is eating together every night of the week, that those parents probably are more involved in that student's life. Okay, that's one look at it. What's another variable that could be here?
The relationship between
Okay, that's a little bit the same, right? So maybe the students that aren't eating have maybe a fractured relationship, and so they're not doing as well in school. That's another kind of similarity to what Cole said. What's another one that's a little bit different, maybe on the other side of things?
Well,
How would that
family's
affect?
so poor they can't eat.
Okay,
Probably a low.
It's an extreme one, but like
that's an extreme one.
works.
What's a? I'll kind of throw one out there. What's a reason why your students? What's the reason why you guys might not eat dinner with your family one night?
Busy.
With what?
Sports,
Okay, life, right? So I'm too busy, right? I have too many sports. I have a job. How many people in here have a job? Oh, nobody? One person, two people? Love it. So you might have a job, so you might be at your job, which might cause you to do less of what? Studying, right? I might not be able to study, eat, right? So that could affect your GPA in a negative way. So listen, one of the biggest things that you have to make sure that you do with confounding variables, and you've got to catch this. When you talk about a confounding variable, you have to talk about how it affects the response variable. Okay, you cannot just say this is a variable. You have to say how it affects the response variable. So in this case, you could have students that have jobs. That's why they can't eat with their families, and so that's affecting their poor performance in school, not the fact that they aren't eating at home with their families. Okay? Make sense?